Hi, my name's Max Carlish. I've lived with bipolar disorder for 19 years. And for 20 years before that, I had difficult to treat depression. Over that time, I've taken literally dozens of different medications. And I think it's fair to say that I've always had quite a dysfunctional relationship with medication. That's why I was so interested when I was asked to be lead patient researcher on the MEDIATE study at Aston University. So this is a study which was trying to find out about how to improve prescribing for people like me with a severe mental illness. And the conclusion we came to was a massive revelation for me. It just completely changed the way I think about my own medication, but it actually sounds quite simple. And what we realised was that at least as important as the pills you're taking is your relationship with your prescriber. And for me, that's why the MEDIATE study is such a breakthrough, because that relationship is such a huge part of every service user's life, and yet it's barely talked about, it's hardly researched. And on the study, we also found that many patients spent very little time having any kind of dialogue with their prescribers. Take my own case. I have a meeting with my psychiatrist, who's also my prescriber, on average about once every 6 months. And the meeting lasts 10 minutes. Now, however good the psychiatrist is, what can you accomplish and what can you meaningfully explore in that amount of time? And what happens, for instance, if during that 6 months I get a really bad side effect and I can't get hold of my psychiatrist? Again, the findings of the MEDIATE study told us something that I could really relate to, that as a patient, if you can't get the information that you need or don't trust the information you're being given, you start to go to unauthorized sources, for instance, the internet, friends and family, or perhaps even more seriously, you do what I've done in the past in the face of a horrible side effect, which is just to stop taking the med altogether. And I've literally gone cold turkey, which is about the worst thing you can do. And we know from the research on MEDIATE that these problems are happening all the time, along with overprescription, where patients are taking too many drugs, either because they've been told to or because they're self-medicating. And these are all the results of ineffective prescribing relationships. And so all these findings from MEDIATE led us to another massive question. How helpful is it to patients with severe mental illness to carry on prescribing in the same old way? Of course, I'm not suggesting, and neither is MEDIATE, that we should eliminate clinicians. It's absolutely vital that they keep on striving for more trusting and sympathetic therapeutic alliances with patients. And the MEDIATE research has provided lots of pointers as to how this can be achieved. But what I am saying is that perhaps there's a place for peer support within that relationship. So, for instance, instead of just getting information on side effects from your psychiatrist and prescriber, you also get information from somebody who's actually taken the medication. And as a patient, you'd have the chance to get the benefit of another service user's lived experience, both in terms of preparing for possible side effects and in formulating questions and suggestions for your prescribers when you do get the chance to talk to them. And I really believe that this could enhance the quality and therefore effectiveness of these prescriber-prescribed to relationships, and in turn, service users' quality of life. In closing, and going back to the MEDIATE study, this is one of the few areas where the clinicians and the service users were in agreement that in the future, peer support can play a really important role in that critical relationship between the prescriber and the prescribed to. But at the moment, we just don't know how much of a difference peer support can make to getting people onto the right medications, because there's hardly any research on it. And that's why we are so passionate about making our next piece of research all about the possible role of peer support in the prescribing process.